Hello and welcome to Positive Changes with Mike. Today I'm grateful to be joined by Beth. She's a mum, a musician and a cancer survivor. She's kindly sharing a story with us, a journey through fear, faith and finding strength in the toughest times. If you're on your own healing path or supporting someone who is, I think this conversation would really speak to you. So, hello Beth.
Hello.
So when did you first hear the words, you have cancer, and what went through your mind?
I think the first time I would have heard those words would have been straight after my colonoscopy.
Right.
I'd been sent for a colonoscopy because, just to be a bit blunt, because I'd found a little bit of blood in my poo. And so they'd sent me just to check. I'd been told repeatedly, it's absolutely fine. I'm absolutely sure this is nothing, but just to be on the safe side, we'll check. So I went for a colonoscopy. Because I was a bit of a wimp, I had the conscious sedation to have that. So I was slightly out of it when they then called my husband in and sat us both down and said, really sorry about this, but we found a tumour and we believe you do have bowel cancer.
Right.
To be really honest, I'm not actually sure I can remember how I felt now, maybe because of the sedation.
Yeah.
I remember seeing my husband's face change completely. He was clearly scared straight away, and straight away being very detail oriented, wanted to know exactly what was going on, what was going to happen next. And I just kind of sat there, and I think I do remember the one thing that went through my mind straight away is, I'm going to need to tell my parents and I'm going to need to tell my children.
Right.
I don't know how I do that. Mainly because I previously lost my sister to cancer sort of 19 years ago. And I thought I didn't want my parents going through that again. So I suppose that was my main thought is, how do I tell them?
Right.
I didn't think about the future very much. It was just that immediate, how do I tell people?
I understand completely, because those things went through my head as well. It was all, it's a blur to start with, isn't it?
Mm.
How did your role as a mum shape the way you faced cancer?
It's a tricky one, really. I mean, my boys they would have been 16 and 19 at the time.
Right.
So they weren't young. They were old enough to understand. We could be really honest with them, tell them everything. Sam, my eldest, was in university in Southampton, so wasn't here all the time. So that was a tricky one, really, just because I couldn't keep checking how he was because he wasn't here. We were really honest with them about everything. They knew all the treatment that I was going to be facing. They knew when I was going into hospital. They knew what was going to be happening. And they took it really well. They're boys, so they don't necessarily talk an awful lot about things. Sam went straight into, I'm going onto the internet and I'm going to research into everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to find out everything about this so that I can then ask intelligent questions. And Jake just felt the need to make me endless cups of tea to look after me when I was at home. I think probably I felt that I needed to keep any fear from them. So the times when I got scared about, would I see them go into proper adulthood? Would I see them get married and have children? Those fears I shared with Simon, my husband, more than I shared with the kid. I did try to keep that from them, really, just because I felt, I don't know, I guess I just wanted to be strong for them, really, so that they kind of thought, oh, it's all right, mum's fine. Mum's going to be okay.
Yeah.
That was really what I did.
In what ways did music help you through the hardest part of the treatment? Because I know you're an amazing pianist.
It's very kind of you to say, Mike. Did music helped me, but I would probably say the best way that music helped me was the fact that I'm friends with so many musicians.
Right.
I just had the most amazing support from well, all of my friends who are musicians, from the people that I'm in different choirs with to the gorgeous Sally. I just had I knew I was never on my own. If there was anyone I just needed to talk to, just someone just to go out for a coffee with me and just listen to me, not moan necessarily, but just talk through everything that was going on. There were people around me all the time. And I was able, for the vast majority of the time I was going through it, I was able to keep going with all my choirs. The only time I had to stop was for a few weeks before my surgery because of COVID risks and things like that. I had to isolate. And that was horrible because I suddenly had a couple of weeks where I didn't see anybody. I didn't have that regular 2 or 3 times a week support of people just coming up and putting their arm around me and just saying, "You okay? We're with you." So yeah, I would say it was. I mean, the musicians' support is amazing. They are just the best friends you can have. They really are, and they just keep you going, and then they make you laugh.
Excellent.
When you're feeling a little bit down, you just go out and you have a nice glass of wine and you have a laugh with them, and everything feels better.
Brilliant. Did your faith change during the cancer journey? And if so, how?
I don't think my faith changed. I've been a Christian since I was 6 or 7. That was when I made as a very, very young child. I made a decision. I knew I did things wrong. I was not a particularly good little girl. And I was taught, my parents are both believers as well, and they had brought me up and taught me about the Bible. And I wholeheartedly believed, Jesus died for me and for my sins, and that if I asked him into my life, then he would save me. And that faith has stayed with me all the way through. That faith was absolutely what got me through the death of my sister. She was 33. So many people kept saying to me, "Well, it's not fair, is it? Why is Jo going through this?" And I could honestly say, well, it is fair. I never questioned anything like that. And then the same when I had my diagnosis, I didn't question why suddenly at what was I, 48 at the time, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer. Because I have always believed that God has a plan for my life. I might not always understand what that plan is, but that doesn't mean that it's not there and it's not right. So yeah, my faith, it didn't change. God stayed with me. Yeah. I was absolutely aware that he was with me. I was never alone.
Yeah.
Even that night the night before my operation, when suddenly everything feels very real, and you're lying in a hospital bed thinking, "Oh, I've just been told by an anaesthetist that there is a possibility after this operation I might not wake up. Oh, that's quite scary." At those points, I knew, I felt that I had God with me. Verses from the Bible came to me. God is my refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And those sorts of verses were just amazing. My favourite verse is, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord." And that just kept coming back to me. It was the verse that was preached on at our wedding.
Right.
And it just kept coming back to me. God's got a plan. That plan could well have been for me to come through and survive. And, as it has been, it could also have been his plan that I wasn't going to make it. And that would have been okay as well.
So the faith give you the strength to suffer.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Were there moments when everything felt too much? And what helped you hold on during those times?
I think the only times where it felt like it was all getting a bit much was in the middle of the night when you couldn't sleep. And everything always feels worse when it's dark, doesn't it? And you're lying in bed and you just think, what's going to happen? I don't know. I'm a planner. I like to be organised. I like to know what's happening next. And I suddenly couldn't. And at those points, I could feel, that's when, you just have that little nagging voice that comes in that just says, well, what if you don't make it? Who's going to help look after your parents as they get old? Who's going to help Simon with the boys, even though the boys are adults and can look after themselves? And at those points, it can suddenly feel a bit much, and you think, oh, I don't know what to do here. But those were the points where my faith came back again, and that those verses of, God is my refuge and help. That actually He has a plan. Therefore, if I don't make it, all of the other things would be okay as well. So that would have been what helped me really in those times.
Okay, thank you. What unexpected gifts or life lessons came out of your experience with cancer?
Unexpected gifts. I think it just teaches you to value life, doesn't it? There are times when just the daily grind can start getting you down a little bit, when you just sort of think, oh, I'm so busy all the time, and I've got to make sure I'm here for this, and I've got to do this, and I've got this all this teaching that I'm doing, and I've got work with church, and I've got to look after the boys, and I have all these things that I need to do, and sometimes you can get a bit stressed with it all. But this just taught me that actually it's all a gift. It's, the fact that I get to do amazing things. I get to teach children how to play the piano and see them improving. I get to work with the most amazing choirs and play for them and accompany them and sing with them. I get to raise two incredible children and see them become amazing human beings. So there might be times when things get stressful, but it's all a gift, and we've just got to treasure every day, really, haven't we? And you appreciate your health as well. The fact that I'm now well, not that I ever felt particularly unwell before. That's why it was such a shock when I did have the diagnosis, because I didn't at any point feel unwell. But now that I don't feel unwell and know I'm well as well, there's a lot of wells in that sentence. That makes me, just appreciate everything. God's given me life, and I can treasure it. Excellent.
How did you talk to your children about what was happening to you?
We just sat them down in the lounge. I hadn't told them beforehand that I was going for any kind of tests. So we had to tell them that I was going for the colonoscopy because I needed to starve myself basically for the 24 hours before and things like that, and then have these horrible milkshakes, which are shakes that were the worst part of it, really. The actual process of the colonoscopy was fine. So we had to tell them, because of that they were obviously going to see what was going on. At that point, I think I told them that I was having tests, but it was absolutely fine, and it was just going to point out that I had, I don't know, a hemorrhoid or something like that. And I was very, I just said, I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. So then when we got home, I think Jake would have been in school. Sam was home for the summer because it was sort of June, July time. And we sat them both down. And I had to tell them. And then I got emotional. Because it's a big thing to tell your children, isn't it?
It is.
And again, Simon and I were both very honest with them. Simon particularly hung on to the word that the nurse had said to me when they talked to me about it, which was that it was curable. And that was the word he was hanging on to. So he kept stressing that to the boys. Mum has cancer, but we've caught it early. It can be dealt with surgery and possible treatment afterwards, but surgery, and it's curable. So, the next couple of months is going to be quite tricky, but she's going to be fine. And I think we tried to just push the positives of it as much as possible, really, and that they could ask any questions they wanted, and I would be totally honest with them about it. Apart from the fact that I obviously didn't tell them about being scared.
Yep, we have to draw a line somewhere.
Yes.
Looking back, what part of the treatment or healing journey surprised you the most?
I think, and I can say this now looking at it, I wouldn't have said it at the time. I think what surprised me actually was how long I took to feel totally like myself again after the operation. I genuinely thought I was absolutely fine and back to my normal self after about 4 or 5 weeks. And I was pushing to go back to work, even though lots of people were saying, no, I think you need to take a little bit more time off. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I'll be great. Let's go back. And it's only now, I think, as I now look back on it, I realise actually I didn't have the same level of energy that I would normally have. And my body was still healing. Classic woman in her late 40s trying to lose weight was impossible. For a good year and a half after my surgery, I could try and diet, I could try and do anything. No. And my body was just not reacting to anything. And I spoke to people in the team, fabulous colorectal team in the Gwent, and they just said, your body's healing. You've got to let your body heal. It will take a long time. And now I'm just coming up to 2 years on now. Now I can see, oh yeah, I am back to myself now. I've got my full level of energy now. My body is now behaving a little bit better than it was. There's still things, if I can be absolutely honest and blunt about it, I don't know if I will ever get back to a point where when I go to the toilet, I don't think about it.
Right.
Which is ridiculous, isn't it? You just think it's the most natural thing. You do it all the time. But there's always that, oh, am I going to find blood again? And that, I think, will probably always be there to a certain extent. But it doesn't worry me now so much, in that I know if it did come back, it could be dealt with again. And I know that, the team that are keeping a check on me every 6 months, I'm having blood tests, and then every year I have a CT scan, so that, the surveillance program that they put in place is great. So I don't feel nervous and worried, but it is probably always there in the back of my mind.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you felt in the early days that you wanted to just get back, do you think, with hindsight, which is obviously a wonderful thing, do you think at that point you actually felt, I'm ready to do something, or do you think you was trying to convince yourself, I'm back to normal, let's get going?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. I'm not very good at just sitting down doing nothing. I never have been.
And give you lessons in that.
There was probably a lot of me wanting to be, I'm fine, there is nothing wrong, I can do all of this. I think a lot of it was for the sake of my parents and for the sake of my children. I wanted for them to know I was fine.
Yeah.
So, going back to work and going back to doing all the stuff that I was doing outside of work as well. The more I was doing, the more I felt everyone knew I was okay. I don't remember thinking, though, as I was doing these things, thinking this is too much. I don't remember ever thinking that. I don't remember thinking I don't feel well enough to be doing it. I genuinely felt like I was well enough to be doing it. It's only now, as I look back, that I think, actually, I was really tired then, wasn't I? And I would come home from work and just sit on the sofa, and I couldn't sort of do anything for I just have to have a cup of tea and sit for an hour or two. Whereas before it, I would have never done that. I would have come home from work, grab a quick cuppa and then start doing the housework or something. And it's only now as I look back, I realise, actually, I wasn't able to do all of that.
So it's your energy levels.
Energy, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Just 2 questions left. Are you okay to keep going?
Yeah, that's fine.
The last but one question. What message would you give to someone newly diagnosed who feels overwhelmed?
I would say ask questions. The more information you have, I think the better you feel about things. The more you're just sitting with things going round in your mind, you can blow things up to be so much worse than they actually are. Most people, I'm guessing, with a new cancer diagnosis would have a team worker or a caseworker that would be appointed to them.
Yeah.
Use them. They are so helpful. The amount of times I thought, I'm not sure on something, and I thought, I'll just give Jo a quick ring and ask her. And I pick up the phone. Every time I phoned, she just said, "Thank you for phoning. I'm so pleased you haven't sat and worried about it, that you've actually asked me the question." She never made me feel like I was imposing or, sort of troubling her when she was busy. She was brilliant. So I would say, if you're overwhelmed, get the information you need, because the more you understand, the more you can process things. And the other thing I think I would say is use the people around you. They're there to support you. You feel like you're being an imposition, but you're not, actually. People want to be able to help. People want to be able to feel like they're being good friends. And by allowing them to help you and support you, you're actually helping them as well in some ways. Because that's, the people closest to you are going through this as well. And I do think it's funny, having done cancer from 2 sides, having seen my sister go through it, and then having gone through it myself, I can honestly say it's much harder being the person watching someone going through it.
Right.
When it's happening to you, you kind of just get on with it to a certain extent. But when you're the person watching on, you feel absolutely helpless. And so if you, as the cancer sufferer yourself, if you can allow people to help you, it helps you, but it also helps them.
What does positive change mean to you now after surviving? So what sort of positive changes have you made in your life?
I think it's probably more mindset rather than actually anything particularly different I'm doing. I'm not doing much differently to what I was doing. I guess I'm probably trying to live a healthy lifestyle, but I think I did that anyway before. I think it's more that mindset of appreciate everything. If you're getting stressed, if you're getting bogged down, well, change the way you're thinking about it. All of these things that you're doing are blessings for you. It would be so much worse if you didn't have things to worry about. My parents are getting older and need more of my care and support. That can be a stress for me, but also I can see it as a blessing that I'm 50 and both of my parents are still here with me. So it's changing my mindset, that actually God has blessed me with so many amazing people in my life and things in my life, and has given me the joy of music and the joy of friendship. So there's no point getting stressed about things, really. Even that you can't help it to a certain extent, you can't help worrying, but actually, if we can see all these things as positive gifts that we've been given, it helps a lot.
Brilliant. So you touched on this earlier with that about having more appreciation or gratitude, and it just seems like a wonderful thing to notice things more.
Yeah.
Is there, so that's all the questions that I've got organized for us. Is there anything you'd like to add? Is there anything you would like to say? Because this may be watched by people who have just been diagnosed or going through something now, or their partner or loved one is it, but it's up to you. You can say, no, I've covered everything, or
Nothing particularly springs to mind, I'll be honest. I think I would just say if you're newly diagnosed, it's not the death sentence that it was 20, 30 years ago. More and more people are having really positive outcomes. Obviously, the earlier you're diagnosed, the better. So don't ignore symptoms, however silly you think they are. I remember talking to my husband and just saying, I think I've got a little bit of blood in my poo. I'm sure it's nothing. It'll be fine. And he was the one who said to me, yeah, I'm sure it is nothing, but let's let a doctor tell you that. And so he pushed me to go and get that doctor's appointment. And I would say, to anyone, if you have got any kind of symptoms, I suppose it's a bit embarrassing, isn't it, talking to people about your poo? I kind of feel now you're not a friend of mine if I haven't discussed my bowel habits with you.
Have we passed the poo test?
Exactly. We're okay. We're friends, Mike. Just don't worry about being embarrassed. Just get it diagnosed, because if you can find out that it's there, then you can deal with it. And I'm obviously very grateful. I've had a very positive outcome, and I'm fully aware that not everybody is as fortunate as I have been. But if we can get it dealt with, the NHS, I've got to say, is amazing. And their treatment for cancer patients is incredible. I know it's struggling with so many things, but actually it is amazing. And the people that looked after me were amazing. So, get things sorted.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your honesty. And thank you on behalf of the people who are watching this, or the one person that watches every week.
I think that's me.